This is the Military Bottom Line Podcast, episode 68.
And it's almost like a dance. You're dancing around each other, except you're not dancing with a partner. You're two, blenders flying around each other, trying not to touch each other, but you're flying around in this nice, symmetrical dance, dropping gear and picking gear up all at the exact same time. And it's a lot of fun.
Welcome to the Military Bottom Line Podcast, where we learn from veterans and those currently serving how to make the most out of a military contract. We're here to motivate, inspire, and help you leverage your service to positively impact you professionally, personally, and financially during your military career and beyond. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning into the show. This is your host, Jason Birds. Super grateful for you guys tuning in as always. Lately, I think I've finally reached the point where turning on Netflix is uncomfortable almost. If you have never actually done it, but from what I hear, if you cut out sugar for a long time, you then go back to eating sugar and it's disgusting. So I think I've reached that point finally with Netflix. I used to watch Netflix a lot, and now I'm turning that nightly habit into reading. And so right now I'm reading couple books, but one of them being a book on how to tell stories. And so I've kind of recognized through podcasting and through just life in general that there is value in being able to tell a story well and capturing the audience's attention. So that's something that I'm hoping to get better at, and hopefully you guys will benefit from as I learn how to tell stories more and watch Netflix less. So if you guys are still watching Netflix, I definitely recommend trying to offset that a little bit with reading books, because I've found reading has brought me way more joy than watching Netflix. So definitely check that out. This week's bottom line from Phillip. Phillip, Phillip's kind of I'm a little bit jealous of him because he kind of took a path that I think is pretty rad. And so basically, Phillip went from enlisted Marine Corps infantry to now is a commissioned officer and a Navy pilot. And so the bottom line here is that don't ever discount yourself from going from enlisted to officer, or really getting to that next level and even becoming an aviator. A lot of people, I think, will kind of write themselves off, thinking it's a pipe dream, thinking it's only for somebody else. But the reality is that more people can do it than you think. And so the stereotype of a Marine Corps grunt and the stereotype of a naval aviator are not the same, and yet Phillip's done them both. So he's got an incredible story. And really, if you're interested in the Marine Corps or the Navy and flying, I think we've probably talked a little bit more about flying in the Navy than his time in the Marine Corps, but I think it's probably pretty close to 50-50. So check out his story. He was out completely going to college, and then he decided, he wants to pursue something different than he originally thought planned. So crazy story. And I'm pumped for him and excited because it really shows a good example of how doable it truly is. So stay tuned and enjoy this episode. What's going on, Phillip, man? How you doing?
Good, man. Good. How are you been, man?
Doing well. I'm excited. We originally connected back in March, where a guy I went to boot camp with kind of threw your name out there. And so I knew you were in the middle of a PCS at the time. And so things are settling down for you a couple months later. And I'm excited to hear your story, because it's, going from enlisted Marine Corps to naval officer aviator is a pretty big leap. And so I think it's a victory story in a way that I'm excited to hear about.
Yeah, man. So starting all the way back in the beginning. So 2008, I would say I'm comparable to probably every high schooler. You're not really sure what you want to do. At that time frame, I feel like I wasn't mature enough to go to college. I felt like in college I wasn't going to make it anyway. And so looking at different branches, the Marine Corps obviously stood right out to me right away. I already had great friends from the football team at that time frame that was joining the Marine Corps and kind of want to follow in their footsteps a little bit. So went in the Marine Corps directly in 2008. Went to Paris Island, the best place that you can take a vacation. Went down there, joined the Marine Corps for 5 years. Ended up doing 3 tours with them. So I ended up deploying to Afghanistan in early 2000 or late 2008, early 2009 with 3-6 into Marja. Then went back with 2-9 into Sangin, and then got ripped off of a fighting contract with the Marine Corps, I guess you could say, to go do a Brigadier General's PSD team. So I did his security the entire time. I kind of protected him. He'd be like, hey, I want to go here, here. And since I was in the northern side of the Helmand province and the southern side, he figured I'd be the best guy for his navigator. And he kind of made me a platoon sergeant early on. I hadn't put on sergeant at that time frame yet, so I was still a corporal. And so being a platoon sergeant as a corporal with like 60 guys was a very unique scenario where no one's above you. It's just the sergeant major and this brigadier general.
Wow. You just breeze by a lot of stuff. So first I want to back up just a little bit to get a better understanding of kind of like who you are. Where are you from originally?
Yeah. So I joined down in Maine. So I'm from New England.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how you know Blake. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's exactly not how I know Blake. Yeah.
All right. And then, so you said you joined for 5 years. Like,
yes.
Why a 5-year contract instead of a 4-year contract?
Well, I think back then the pipeline was a little bit different on how they were running security forces, the MPs and the grunts. We were all kind of channeling into different schools at that time frame, and I think they were trying to retain more Marines for a longer period of time. And so they would have you sign, instead of a 4 on and 4 off, they'd have you sign a 5 on and 3 off. So I'd sign the contract, be active duty for a little while, and then your just inactive time was just a little bit shorter.
So, and you signed a security forces contract?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I initially actually was trying to come in as a scout sniper, and the MOS filled up. So then they came on and they were like, well, hey, here's your options. You can go security forces. You can do stuff with the MPs. You can be a mortarman or you can be a tanker. And I was like, man, I don't really know. And then, so I initially actually signed a contract for MPs, did the whole MP thing. And then eventually they pushed us over to security forces. And then I ended up deploying with, I think it was 9th ESB at that point, and then where we got attached to 3-6 into Marja. Yep. And that's where I met Prey as well, Frenchie's, where he, we kind of like, all of us kind of came together in like this battle rattle kind of group where we're all these different MOSs mixed in for giant security like force kind of thing. It was very odd. Like my machine gunner at that time frame, great friend of mine, was a comm operator. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing in the gun? This is weird.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So I know, like, for some people that kind of put some context on security forces, because like in the Air Force, security force is basically MP or, military police type thing.
Yeah. So what the Marines do is they take their MPs and they create them into a jackknife of all trades. So they'll take the MPs and you can choose to go field option or you can choose to be a garrison guy. If you become a garrison guy, it is what you see. It's like the guys at the gate, you're patrolling main streets. You're just a regular military police officer at that point. Yeah. If you go the field, what will happen is you'll continue your field training and you'll get more weapons training, more hands-on training. They send you to specialty schools if they have time before you deploy. Essentially, you're the jack of all trades. You got all this garrison training with like DEF-TAC, so you can run ECP points over there in Afghanistan. You can do vehicle checkpoints. They can put you on security forces to help set up FOBs and things like that as well. So our job at that time frame was convoy security. So I did a ton of convoy security from Camp Leatherneck to FOB Hansen. And then at that time, we had guys rotating in different platoons. So you had different squads that were swapping out with each other. And that would allow us to keep 2 squads at all times on FOB Hansen and 1 squad that would go back and forth with the other convoys that were going to resupply them. So we were essentially I guess you could say, a specialized security force that could do anything that you wanted at that time frame. So you're, yeah.
So I always thought that security force within the Marine Corps was like you've spent the first 2 years like protecting like nuclear subs or something like that.
And you could totally get on that gig, yeah.
You could. Okay, so it's not like a one size fits all. It's
like
gotcha.
Literally everything. Like any kind of security you can think of, you can do it.
Huh. Okay. So you could pretty much just end up in the infantry for all 5 years.
100%. There were guys that went that route, never saw any security, and was just a dirty grunt, just living in the dirt. Yep.
No kidding. No kidding. Huh. That's funny because that was one of the options I almost went with. And I don't remember why I didn't, but most people that I hear got it were disappointed because they expected infantry the whole time. And then were disappointed when they got like the security detail up in like middle of nowhere. You know,
that's the catch. Like, just because you get it doesn't mean that you're going to do any field stuff at all. You could be stuck in the garrison forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't let swap. So if you get stuck garrison, you might just be there permanently because they've already invested that training in you. They don't want you to leave it.
True. But I mean, you wanted to go scout sniper from the beginning, so you were already like, you wanted the infantry life. Essentially, that was what you asked for.
100%. I wanted to go to the field. Yeah. But at that time frame, I didn't really want to just be a rifleman. You know, 0311 was always Phil. I mean, they'll always take you at the end of the day. But I wanted to have a different type of job at that time frame, and I think back then I was looking at just doing my time and getting out and becoming a police officer. That's kind of like where I was at that time frame. And I think that's what appeased me a little bit more at that time frame.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So 5 years, 3 different deployments, you said?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you did a couple deployments and you said you were handpicked by a general to be a PSD.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
One, explain what a PSD is. 2, like, how did you get handpicked? I mean, how did he know who you were? What did you do to get his attention?
So basically what happened was, so PSD is a personal security detachment. You're basically, essentially you're guarding a high value target, and he's going to take you, or you're going to take him, anywhere he wants to go. Yeah. At that time, there was a brigadier general that was trying to put together a security detail so he could go to Afghanistan and look over the operations for the engineers that were there. I guess the CBs at that time, it was who was building there at that time. But they were building bridges into Marja, and on the outskirts of Marja on the southern side, if you're familiar at all with Dwyer, they were down there as well. And so he would navigate all these areas. And so he needed somebody that was familiar with the northern side and the southern side. And so he came to our company and started poking around and asking people who had been where and what they have done. And then eventually got down to me, and they asked me, hey, like, do you want to go on this tour? And I was kind of wishy-washy at that time. I just got orders to go to the Marine Corps fight team. And I knew the Marine Corps fight team wasn't going to be around for much longer. It was about a year and a half. And I knew that if I didn't take the gig off the bat, that there's a good chance I could come back and they were going to disband it. And so I was really hesitant on jumping on these, but I think what ultimately pushed me to go on that last tour was the junior Marines there coming to my room late at night being like, Corporal, you got to come with us, man. I don't know who's going to go, you know? And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do now? I got all these guys asking me to go with them. I'm like, man, I got to go now. So I just to go on that last tour, signed it off, turned in my orders. I actually remember him ripping them up, just throwing them like in the trash. Like, congratulations. You're with I think it was a sergeant major at the time, ripped them up and was like, talk trash, and was like, you're good. Let's go do this thing now. And
like, oh, okay. Wow. So you and a number of other guys ended up as the PSD for a general. And like, I mean, I don't envision generals like convoying around Afghanistan. So yeah, I assume it's more airtime than convoy time.
Yeah, for sure. So he did fly a couple times. I think he flew like 4 or 5 times while we were there. I think that time frame was like 2010, 2011 time frame.
Yeah.
So it was definitely way safer to fly. But I think him being a prior infantry Marine himself, he loved to convoy. He just wanted to be on the ground. He wanted to be with the Marines. And keep him out of the turret sometimes was a pain in the ass. There were times when he'd be in our convoy and he would try to get in the gun. And it's like, Jesus, dude, you're the whole sole purpose of this convoy, man.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
You just wanted to play games all over again, huh?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. That was a very unique situation.
I imagine, I mean, we'll get to this, but kind of a foreshadowing. I imagine that relationship that you built with him came in handy for future career choices.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So after I got out of the Marine Corps,
So wait, first, before we get too deep, because I don't know anything about this. You mentioned you got orders for the Marine Corps fight team.
Yes.
So I know that the Marine Corps has like a football league and like, some weird like one-off things where you can like be a professional athlete in the Marine Corps. Is that what the fight team is?
Yeah, it was exactly that. So at that time, it was actually located, I believe, still on Main Side is when they disbanded. But essentially, you'd go around and you'd fight other countries in the cage. It was mixed martial arts at the time, so you would go around, and it was just cage fighting. You'd go around and fight other countries, and you'd represent the Marine Corps in the cage. And I was super stoked to do it. Dana White at the time would come down every once in a while, and he would fight with the other fighters, and they'd bounce things off each other. And I was really excited to go to that. And then, unfortunately, I didn't get to complete that whole time. But
did you have MMA experience prior to that, or did you just apply and they accepted you?
No. I actually fought before I joined the Marine Corps, so I was fighting in and NEF. I don't know if you're familiar with those organizations, but I was doing a lot of fighting before I joined the Marine Corps, so I had a lot of experience. These guys that I was going to train with, I got to go down and meet them before I signed on my orders, and they actually went through. These guys were next level stuff, man. The guys that went there usually show up as an okay fighter, and then by the time you stay there for a year to 2 years, by the time you leave there, you are phenomenal. It's just night and day when you train with those guys.
So because this is one of those like one-off opportunities that like, does the fight team specifically still exist?
I don't believe so. I don't think the still there anymore. They used to have like a soccer team and like a lacrosse team. They had all these different sports, and I think they disbanded all of them.
All of them. Oh man, I was gonna say like, how can somebody take advantage of this? They disbanded all of them.
Yeah, I think they disbanded all the extra, I guess you could say, curricular activities. Wow. They didn't want them anymore. They were like, that's what the Navy football team is for. We're just going to send them there. So most of your Marines now that make it onto football teams will just go to the Navy's football team.
Like the Naval Academy's football team?
Yeah, they'll actually send guys there and play on those teams now.
So like an enlisted dude can go like basically join the football team if they're good enough, and then they get obligated to go to the Naval Academy, go to school just to play football?
So, from what I have heard is you can go to the academy, and you can go to the academy with weight behind you saying, I am a football player and I can represent the Marine Corps on the football team, and go to the Naval Academy and then also become an officer. Wow. So it's not like the sole purpose of going there to play ball anymore. Mm-hmm. You're still going there to go to college, get your commission, become an officer, but you'll go there and represent the Marine Corps on that team.
Wow. Wild. I mean, but at the time, all right, it's definitely unfortunate that this is no longer an option, but you said those were 2-year orders, like that you were able
I go for 2 years. Yeah.
Crazy. Like getting paid.
I was
and your full-time job is to go become like an awesome fighter. Unreal.
I was so excited, man. I'm going to wake up in the morning and get paid to hit the bags at the end of the day. I was so stoked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'd say I was billowing with energy at that time frame, man. I was so.
It's just so funny how like that opportunity, taking a different opportunity instead is likely like just totally took you off on a different track,
Oh, I look back at that, like I wonder what would have happened if I would have taken that. Would I have done my last 2 years and then gotten out of the Marine Corps, and maybe the fight career didn't take off for me, and I find myself in like a trade job or something. Or maybe I put my roots down in California and I stay there and I don't go back home, and maybe I find a different there. There was a lot of things I guess I could have happened if I took that Marine Corps fight job, but I don't know. The fighting career would have been, I think, had its shelf life. So I think I would have had to go someplace else.
Sure.
Eventually.
True. Yeah. Good perspective. So you ultimately did your PSD, 6-month deployment with the general as a PSD?
10.5 months.
Oh wow, that's pretty long. Wow.
That was a long.
Yeah. Did the general actually stay there for 10.5 months?
He did. Yeah. He stayed there for 10 and a half.
Wow.
We rode out for a while. I think we executed 45 or 47. Yeah, I think it was 45 or 47 convoys through different areas, different trains.
Wow.
It was,
Wow.
but we did really well, actually. We did really well. We didn't hit any IEDs, which is extremely rare.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. So you finished up that deployment and you're at that point kind of nearing the end of your contract, right?
Yes.
Yep. And your mindset at that point is like, I'm getting out, I want to go to college. You're still thinking become a police officer, right?
Yeah. Right. I was looking at going back home to New England, and I was like, kind of scope locked on becoming, some sort of law enforcement. I was kind of scoped out for a while, but when I was in that first tour with Paray, when I was on that first tour, I remember seeing the Cobras come overhead with all the other helicopters, the Hueys, and they do gun runs. And at that time, I was a machine gunner. I was just a turret gunner. So looking at these guys, in my perspective, whatever I got in front of me is my field of fire, right? Like I can only influence the battle as much right here. But these guys that are flying around, I mean, the world is their field of fire. Like they have the ability to influence so much. And so that drove me really hard. And at the end of that tour, I remember telling people, it's like, dude, I would give anything to be a pilot. And then, so fast forward, I'm at the end of my time, and I called one of my best friends. His name's Cathcart, and I call him up, and I'm talking with him, and I tell him I'm, pursuing the career to be law enforcement. And he's like, well, dude, what happened to the pilot career? And I remember thinking like, oh man, they're not gonna take a Marine. Let's just like, what am I gonna bring to the table? I wasn't sure, but like these guys got engineer degrees, they got all these backgrounds. Like I'm not gonna be able to like bring much to the table. At that time frame, I was just starting Thomas College at that time up in Maine. And so I picked a degree in business. So
you,
I didn't really
you were
think
already out at the point you had that conversation.
Yeah, I was probably my first at Thomas.
And you, so just so we all totally understand, you got out not really with the intention of ever going back.
Exactly. Yeah, I initially got out with, hey, I'm going to get out and see what the civilian world's like. And it didn't cross my mind right away to go back to the military. I was kind of blocked, like we were saying, like on law enforcement for that first year. And everybody that I talked to, I talked to a couple chief of police and some game wardens up there. And everybody said the same thing to me for law enforcement. Don't go get a criminal justice degree. They're like, you already have your military background. If you get a criminal justice degree, you're just going to double tap it. We would much rather see you be more diverse.
Yeah.
And so looking at, different options for law enforcement, they're like, hey, halfway through your career, it's going to be running a business. You're just going to be producing, and it's going to be outgoing and incoming with funds. And like, we want to know that you can manage that on a higher level. So if you get business management, you can come into the law enforcement and you can move up the chain faster with that degree. It might be a little rougher at the beginning, but later on, your career will go much further. And so that's what I was kind of setting myself up with that business management degree.
Gotcha. Okay. Did on your way out of active duty, I guess it depends on your leadership. Like a lot of people gotta get shuffled through the out processing process. And so when you left without the intention of ever coming back, I'm just curious did you go through the VA claim process?
I did. Okay. That is a really good question. So I remember thinking, should I put this claim in? Should I not put this claim in? At this time, I had a little bit of ringing in my left ear, and they were really pushing Marines hard to get that claim and claim tetanitis. And so I was kind of leaning on it left and right, because if I put that claim in, I was worried that maybe it would disqualify me from law enforcement. And they were like, it's not going to, you can always put the claim in eventually, but it's going to be a lot harder to prove, hey, this came from service activity. And so I weighed my options kind of left and right. And I was like, you know what? I feel personally like I know my body. I'm not going to put this claim in. I'm going to be fine. Like there's guys way worse situation than I am.
Yeah.
Guys have lost legs and fingers and hands. Like I don't need this claim. I'm going to be fine. So I didn't put it in, accepting that, you know what, maybe I'll bite this off someday, but I'm going to be fine. I'll be able to get a job. It's not going to influence me that bad.
Yeah. Just curious how if it would come into play later on.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't, because if I did, I would have been immediately out of the pilot industry right away. Like there's no way I would have been.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's
So,
huge.
you said you're in college, you're doing business, and you have this conversation with your buddy, and he brings up the pilot thing again. So like, how did that total change of gears and change of objective take place?
Yeah. I think he planted the seed, and he kind of like reflourished old memories of mine. And I think I started thinking back about being a pilot. And then in my first year at Thomas College, I was in the gym really heavy again. I was really physically fit. I was really motivated, and I was trying to scope lock myself on something bigger than myself. And so as I'm going through Thomas College that last year, I'm like asking myself, that first year, I'm asking myself, hey, am I going to be happy as a law enforcement official? Like, I don't know if I'm going to become a cop in a small town. Am I going to feel that I'm accomplishing something big? Is this going to be like, this is a great job, great morals, right? Like great aspirations there. I would totally have been happy with becoming a law enforcement, anything, doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But I was like, I think I want to shoot higher. Like all the guys that I like looked up to, all these pilots, all these other officers, they always shot higher, and they shot for something they didn't think they were going to make. And so I was like, all right. So as I had my time to think about that, I have 3 more years at Thomas College, and I'm still doing the thing. And then I have a great friend of mine that recommends me to go to this convention right down in New York. And I go down there, and I bump into Eddie, a great friend of mine. Is an investor. He's an FA on Wall Street. And he throws this career at me at the same time as I'm balancing everything else. He says, hey, Exner, like,
I'd love you to be a Wall Street career at you.
Yes, this is exactly what it is. I would love for you to work down here on Wall Street as an FA. And I'm like, oh man, dude, like, I don't know if I could ever do like, the cubicle job style office job. I'm weighing my options. I'm like, I don't know, man. And then he throws a ballpark number at me. He's like, listen, man, he's like, easily I can get you started work here for at 150 until you're self-sufficient. I'm like, 150 what? Like, I want to clarify this. He's like, 150 grand will start out like basically day one. And he goes, we'll adjust it as you go, but until you're self-sufficient, and then we'll go from there. But at the end of the day, I was like, I couldn't grab that job for 2 things, I think. One, I'd lived in cities before, and it wasn't really my style in the cities. I mean, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just the crowd. I like to visit cities, but I don't know if I'd like to live in them. Yeah. And then 2, I still couldn't do the cubicle job. I just couldn't sit in a cubicle. I don't think I'd be influencing anybody, doing investments and stuff like that. I don't think I'm really making the impact or changing the world, Wasn't really in my line where I was going. So I kind of stepped back and was still weighing the pilot stuff and law enforcement for probably the last 2 years there at Thomas. And then that's when I started looking into the Marine Corps again, started dibble-dabbling and poking around, seeing like if I could put any kind of package in. I talked to a couple recruiters. You bump into some of the rough ones where they're like, oh, you can't go pilot until you go enlisted. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound right, man.
I already did that. Yeah. Like, did you go in there not telling them that you had already been in?
Sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes I just walk in and, just ask and poke around.
Yeah.
And then they'd spit something off. It's just like that where, hey, if you want to go be an electrician, you got to go infantry first. I'd hear something like that.
Gosh,
man, that's, blatantly now that it's completely like civilian walks in there. It's kind of concerning now, like how easily it is for them to lead them down the wrong path. So I tell guys at Thomas, hey, dude, come with me and just sit in on like these meetings and see what he's telling me if it's accurate. And a lot of times I'd bump into him and be like, dude, that's no way, man. That's not happening. Guys had heard I was going to go to the Marine Corps fight team. So they were trying to get orders straight to the Marine Corps fight team. And he's like, yeah, as soon as you get to your first command, you can ask to go. And I'm like, no, man, that's
gosh,
not
dude. Dangerous.
Yeah.
That's why recruiters get a bad rap, is because people like that,
Yeah. And I totally understand they do got like their, what is it? Their quotas that they're trying to make, like
Of course.
big. So they're willing to say anything. They're just a salesman. That's all I see them now.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right. So you're in junior year or senior year when you start talking to recruiters again and start kind of dabbling?
So I'm probably in my junior year at this point,
Okay.
talking to recruiters and seeing what I can do. My senior year is when I actually put in the package for real. So I put this package in the Marine Corps, and I'm starting to work through it. Halfway through the package, he calls me up and he asks me, "Hey, don't you got sleeves, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got a sleeve." He's like, "Yeah, can you send me some pictures of it? I just need to get some documentation." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I sent it into him, and he's like, "Hey, man," he goes, "it hasn't changed yet, but in the next 30 days, they're changing the tattoo policy, and I can't get your package done in time." And I was like, "Well, what's the tattoo policy?" He's like, "It can't be on your elbow 2 inches above or below, and it can't be 2 inches from the wrist." And he's like, "I can't do anything for you, man." And so I was accommodated, yeah.
Unbelievable. One,
and so
like the tattoo policy, that whole thing where you have to have like a blank stripe at your elbow is like the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
It looks stupid. Yeah. Two, it's just so hard, like it's just so hard to believe and accept, like when you've already been in, you've already done the time, like outperformed and done well, that like something so stupid will still hold people back from doing like something else in the Marine Corps or in the military. It's just super frustrating. I imagine you were pretty discouraged at the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was pretty disgruntled. I think, I saw it as I did these 3 courses, that they're kind of throwing me out the door a little bit there. Mm-hmm. Maybe they kind of leave me dry. I was pretty mad. But being in that moment, I was trying to think of ways to still get back in. And so I remember the brigadier general, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to call this guy up, and he's going to put a package in for me." At this point, he was a major general. So I was like, "Oh, tight. Like, I'm great friends with him. He's going to hold more weight." I call him up, get him to sign off on a waiver for me.
You just straight call the major general on his cell phone?
Yeah. I straight called him and was like, "Sir, I got some stuff. Needs you to hook me up here." So he signs me up, shows up on my doorstep, right? Comes in the mail, hand signed, everything. Wow. Submit it with my package. So we just went through with everything as if that like didn't happen. And we just put the waiver right on the top. So it ends up going in, and it goes all the way up to the commandant of the Marine Corps. Wow. And because nobody wanted to say no to this major general. And I got one email from the commandant's office. Whether or not it was actually him, it might have been just some disgruntled sergeant major somewhere or something,
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Right. And I get one email back that just says, "We said no." And there's no like very respectful or anything like that. And no like very respectful or anything. It just said from the commandant's like email address, "We said no." And that was it, like under everything. I was like, okay,
wow.
there.
Like when he says "we said no," does that mean he knows that you got a no earlier on? And like the whole "we" sounds like kind of weird.
That's a good point. Yeah, he probably knew. He probably knew that I got denied before in the package for the waiver, and then he could see that I went exteriorly to try to get that waiver, and then So that's a good point. Yeah, he probably knew that I was denied before that.
Gosh, dude. I mean, one, props to you for like going back to a weighty contact like that. And it shows that, experiences and, performance at certain times, like you never know how things are going to play out. And like to be able to have a general in your corner like that, even though it didn't work out for this specific instance, I mean, that's big weight that is helpful for sure.
Yeah. So you imagine, so now I'm like, all right, well now I got to do this law enforcement thing. And I call up my buddy. I'm like, "Hey man, I gave it my best go. Like I didn't even get my package in." And he's like, "Well, dude," he's like, "don't fucking, don't quit. Like put your package into something else." And I'm like, "What?"
Is he a pilot?
No, he's not. He's just a dirty civilian at this time, man. He probably right on the path, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, awesome. "Give up, man. Go do something else." And so I was like, "All right, yeah, sure." So I walked back in there, and I remember it was like not even 24 hours after this has happened to me. I walk back in and I walk into the Air Force office and he's just like, what's going on, man? I was like, hey, I'm looking to try to join as a pilot. And he's like, yeah, man, no tattoos, can't be visible. He's like, I can't, if that's what you want, he goes, I can't get you anything. And I'm like, all right. It was worth a shot. It's like, I'm on my way out and I look and I can see a couple guys sitting in the Navy office and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'll give it a go. I'll give it a shot. If there's only other branch I'd be, comfortable with joining, I can go into the Navy office. So I walk in like, hey man, is this going to eliminate me from being an officer? He's like, what? No, we don't care at all, man. Come on in. All right, man. So I walked in. They said they don't care at all. Like there were guys at flight school with tats on their fingers, like on their hands. They didn't care at all.
I remember, I think it was like around the time I was leaving active duty that like the Navy, their new tattoo policy, you could have like neck tats, hand tats.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck? While the Marine Corps is like completely the opposite. It makes, just no sense. No sense.
I think the Navy has the most lax tattoo policy there is. Like, I couldn't believe it when I was watching guys walk in with neck tats. Just like you said, I was like, there's no way this is real right now.
Too funny. So, I mean, basically it's pretty much smooth sailing as far as the application goes with the Navy?
So I put the application in and there's two positions for pilots. This is easily mixed up. So you can be an SNA, which is a student naval aviator, or you can be an NFO, which is a naval flight officer. And in the beginning, you hear that, which one do you think flies? Which one do you think doesn't?
Yeah.
Everybody say,
NFO sounds like the flyer.
NFO sounds like the flyer, man. And it's not. That's the guy. If you have Goose and Maverick, right?
Yeah.
The guy in the back, Goose, he's the NFO. Maverick is the SNA. So I almost messed that up in the beginning. Come into the Navy side, they got different terms for different, like, little bit different things. And so I was like, yeah, man, I want to be the flyer. He's like, okay, you want to be the SNA then? I was like, okay, all right. This is me. But right. He's like, yeah. I was like, all right. I didn't know anything about aviation back then. I just knew I wanted to sit in the cockpit.
Are there literally people that like they accidentally sign up for NFO thinking that means they're going to be a pilot? And then their whole career, they're screwed to the back seat and they never get to fly?
Yep, absolutely. There are guys that I talked to in the pipeline that were like, hey, man, I totally jacked this up. But they said I can change eventually down the line, which is not necessarily wrong. You can change over, but that's after a long, lengthy aviation. Like aviation contracts are the longest contracts you can sign. You're signing in a 4-year contract just for your aviation training. So I signed a contract, came in. My training up until I signed my active contract was about 3.5 years. And then you signed an 8-year contract to fly for 8 years. Once you get your wings, exactly.
Wow.
Once you get your wings, you'll sign your 8-year. And so in total for me, it'll be 11 years for this contract.
So by the time 16?
Yeah, 16, man. Yeah, I just crowned 10 just recently. Yeah.
Wow.
So over the hill, man, it's downhill from here.
At this point, I imagine you're staying till a full 20.
Yeah, probably. Most likely, I'd have to really hate it not to stay to 20.
Yeah. So you're relatively recently winged then.
So I've been winged now for about 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Okay. Has it been everything you hoped it to be as far as flying goes?
Flying is in itself super unique. That like the flying that we do is there's so many mission sets. So backing up just a little bit, so we go to API, right? So the first step that we do for aviation is you go to the aviation pre-indoctrination, which is it's an academic haze. Basically, they just give you a 100-page book, 200-page, 300-page book. You got till the weekend to learn it. If you don't learn it, then you're out. Like it is what it is.
Wow.
I got accepted from Thomas College, which is just like, a backwoods college. Most people have never heard of Thomas, right?
Yeah.
And all these guys around me are from like Yale, Stanford, Harvard, Columbia University, big name colleges where these guys are all engineer degrees. They can read a textbook once and they can breathe it out in like 20 minutes, whole thing word for word. And I'm just like, dude, this level of academics was way surpassed from what I was doing. And so I would find myself studying 16, 17 hours a day, waking up early just to continuously read the book so I get through it.
Wow.
And so you do that. I think it's 6 or 7 weeks, might be 8 now. I think API is. After you go through that whole process, they used to have a process right after that was IFS, which is like initial flight school, where you fly Cessnas and you do the civilian traffic, basically become a student naval aviator there. You do what the civilians do in a year, you'll do it in about a week to 2 weeks. So you'll smash it all in one go. And then from there, they send you to primary. So now you're flying fixed wing. So you're going to be turboprop aircraft, extremely powerful. It's the most powerful single prop aircraft that you can fly around. It is extremely powerful.
Is this like T6 kind of thing? I mean, what is it?
Yep. T6.
Cool.
Yep. T6. You're going to be in tandem seat, just like Maverick and Goose. Yeah. Go out. They're going to basic maneuvers, cross country stuff. You learn your instruments there. You understand the concept of G's and limitations. They teach you like basic EPs at that point. Then from there, you go to advance.
When you're going through this, I mean, you talked a little bit about it earlier, being like, you going to Thomas compared to some Yale and some MIT nerds. Like, how did you feel like you were stacking up? And like, were you constantly like barely keeping your head above water during this process?
So I always felt like I was barely keeping my head above water. And then I look back at it sometimes and I'm like, I'd be looking at my grades and I'm like getting great grades, perfect. Have a couple that drop below the bar. And then I remember talking to guys like left and right of me that are like super academic savvy and they're like barely passing these flights. So where I was struggling academically, I had the stick skills. I was very comfortable in the aircraft. Yeah. So I was the concept of working in 3 different elements, right? So you're working with your altitude, your airspeed, and working in like a 3-dimensional environment I was very comfortable in. And I grasped those concepts and those elements very fast, where other people may not have grasped them very fast, but they could ingest the information really well. So I found that's where I was striving. I was doing really well behind the sticks. I just needed to get better in academics and make sure that I would, maintain that level of information. So I'd find partners and buddies. If anybody ever tells you they made it through flight school without, a study partner, they're full of it, man. Like there's no way making it through flight school on your own. It is a brutal time to try to settle things on your own. It's very, very difficult.
Wow. What would you say to somebody? Because I feel like, flying in the military, like military aviation, can often be and seem like a pipe dream. It'd be cool to do, but like that, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough for that kind of thing. So we set our goals at something a little bit more realistic. It's just, obviously you're a bright dude, but like the stereotype of Marine Corps infantry is not equal to that of naval aviator. What was that like for you, and what kind of message would you give to somebody that's thinking about trying to fly?
I would say the hardships that we experience physically are still way worse than the academics, right? You mess up academics on like a test or something. Hey, you let yourself down. Maybe you let, whoever's supporting you down, but really no one's hurt. It's not like the detrimental to anybody. Now it can be detrimental in the aircraft. If you're not, doing your due diligence and studying and being ready for those flights, people can get hurt and they have gotten hurt in the past. But with that said, everybody's on your side. The instructors that are here, they want you to succeed. They want you to be better. And it makes them feel good when you succeed. It's a complex environment. There's no need to like yell at each other in the cockpits. It's not like, you ever have like your first driver's ed class, right? You imagine if your instructor was yelling at you when you're like 17 years old, right? Yeah. Driving for the first time, you would be, a mess. You'd be a wreck. In the aircraft, I think it's no different. It's like maximized. If someone's yelling at you, you just kind of go internally, you get real quiet and you kind of become like this glassed face and you're like just flying through space and time. You're like, say something, man, start talking. Yeah. It'll be really difficult on you. So working with I think going from Marine Corps and being in the dirt and going for this like academic haze, I think the Marine Corps taught me how to adapt and overcome too well. And I think those elements helped me more so than other people, where they were really good in the academics, but they didn't know how to adapt. They didn't know how to make their weak areas better. And they just kind of kept riding what they were good at, hoping it was going to get them through. And then they got weeded out along the process.
Wow.
And I think Marine Corps set me up for success really well that way. They say adapt, overcome, man, figure out where your weaknesses are and make them your strengths. And that's kind of like what I did.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's funny. Yeah. Adapt and overcome is usually like a motto that we mock, but it's still very true, you know?
It is, man. So true. So true. Yeah.
So I don't know if we actually specified, what are you flying for the Navy?
Yeah. So after I got done primary, I got selected for advanced for helicopters. So I went down the rotary world. I did have
by choice.
So I did put jets first, but there were a couple guys ahead of me that were Johnny Rocket, man. They had stellar grades. Those guys were just born to fly. And at that time I was selecting, there was only limited seats for jets. If I was on the beginning half of jet selection, maybe I would have made it, but I don't think I was cut out for jets. Jets in its own have a completely different pipeline and different mentality.
Yeah.
And I loved the rotary world. I loved working with the ground guys. And so I was really excited when I got rotaries. Working with people on the ground, having people come on my helicopter and come off, and that close air support element was exactly what I wanted. So I ended up picking up the MH-60 Sierra, selected to go fly Sierras out in Coronado. And so from there, I went to, you actually stay in Florida, you fly the TH-57 and you get spun up in that. It's kind of like a lawnmower of a helicopter at first. So go from a lawnmower to like a sports car. It's like not even the same category. You've power for days. Helicopter is extremely maneuverable, high performance. And now I'm basically flying, for people who don't know what a 60 Sierra is, it's basically a Black Hawk that has been upgraded to be naval, or I guess I should say ocean friendly. So there's a lot of things. Our helicopter performs better than a Black Hawk would at sea. So it allows us to, break the helicopter down, store it in a smaller space, and it also allows our helicopter to assist in search and rescue.
Gotcha. Interesting. For Navy rotary wing, is it only the 53 and the 60? How many different helicopters?
Yeah, so they do V-22s now as well. They got the 50.
I didn't know that.
Yep, and they got the 60 Sierra, which is my class, and then a 60 Romeo as well.
Okay.
Different sets, different classes that are between those two. But the Sierra is more of like your gunship. Like, hey, I'm going to put these guys in this insertion or extraction, provide some small arms or maybe some rockets for them, put them on target, and then I'm going to peel off and kind of give them space. If they need me, I'll come back. I'm kind of like that immediate reaction, where the Romeo is going to be a little bit higher, and they're going to be able to do that long-range communication stuff. They have all the gizmos and gadgets on their aircraft to allow them to talk to people and provide different support to people on the ground.
Gotcha. Super cool. What's been your favorite type of flying? Like, I don't know. I don't know how specific that question is, but it sounds like you got something in mind.
That's a hard one. I would say probably turfing or vert rep. So vert rep is vertical replenishment. Turfing is low level flying in terrain. So turf just stands for terrain flying. So you're extremely close to the terrain. You're below 200 feet, sometimes even as low as the treetops. And so you're super low, banking and yanking between all the terrain, trying to use it as a defensive environment. You really involve everybody in the aircraft. So I got two crew chiefs in the back and my co-pilot, or maybe I'm co-piloting at this time. And we're all just calling out obstacles and hazards and terrain while you're flying. And it's an adrenaline rush, and it's extremely dynamic, especially when it's at nighttime. So we don't just use stuff during the day. Like people think, hey, this is day VMC, right? We can see clouds, no weather. where it's like, brother, when we're doing this for real and putting SEALs in or recon Marines somewhere, it's going to be in the bump in the night and we're going to be under NVGs. I'm not going to be able to see crap because, of course, it's going to be raining. So it's like always the worst times, but it's the best times to do it for us. So
yeah, that's one thing that goes from like, during training on a beautiful sunny day in San Diego is like so much fun. And then when it gets real, like you said, nighttime raining, it's like, dude, I mean, crapping my pants the whole time.
Exactly. There's been more sketchy stuff, I think, that's happened on night flights with me than anything else, where you're flying and you're like, oh man, that was a great landing, awesome. And you look to your left and you're like, did anybody see that tree that's like, like right there in front of, like, no, oh crap, man, we didn't see that. It's like, geez, oh man.
Wow.
There's been experiences with other pilots not seeing wires or different like that, which is very stressful, especially flying out in Japan. There's a lot of wires out there that are not marked.
Wow. You said something about high altitude replenishment, you said? Like
vertical replenishment, yes.
Aerial refueling, basically, or?
No, vertical replenishment is just moving gear from one point to the next. And you wouldn't think that it's a lot of fun, but it's a ton of fun picking stuff up and whipping the helicopter around sideways, doing side flares, and you get to drop the gear down and just place it on another ship moving in the middle of the ocean. But you get to really tail whip the helicopter around. I mean, like a lot of sideways flying, backwards flying, like it's just a lot of fun. And you can, as a team, it's just like a smooth operating engine. So there's two helicopters and it's almost like a dance. You're dancing around each other, except you're not dancing with a partner. You're two, blenders flying around each other, trying not to touch each other, but you're flying around in this nice, like symmetrical dance, dropping gear and picking gear up all at the exact same time. And it's a lot of fun.
Cool.
Cool. Not a lot of stress, not a lot of bad weather. It's usually, a beautiful, bright, sunny day. And it's just a lot of fun to have with your crew and your co-pilot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is it, when you're flying out in the ocean, like off the ship and you like leave the ship out of sight kind of thing, is that just, dude, I just imagine that's gotta be super eerie, like you gotta
your first
put a lot of faith in the instruments.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And the navigator.
There's a lot of navigation equipment that's on board. I like one thing that pilots learn really early on is to silence your fears. The only way to silence it is with knowledge. So the more you study and the more you prepare for things, the more you start to feel more comfortable. And there's another term that we talk about later on, but essentially to silence your fears, you got to study and you got to know like what's going to happen. So, and you got to think of every scenario. One thing pilots do is we've analyzed every bad scenario so much so that it's almost just self-intuited when something bad happens. If something happens with my engine or my gauges are reading something bad, I've already gone down every pipeline there is to know what's about to happen. So we've already talked about how we're going to ditch. We already talked about how our helicopter is going to go in the water. We know how we're going to meet up. We know what gear we're going to use, what frequencies we're going to talk to on people. We know what the best chances of survival are in most certain situations. And so it's almost like we're going through the motions at that point. There was a famous pilot back in the FRS that they talk about that she was actually on her way back to the ship in a dual formation. And the Dash 2 aircraft, which would be the second aircraft that they were in the formation, said, hey, you don't have a tail rotor anymore. And in this situation, you can't get slow, right? Or you're going to go right into a flat spin. And so they're at night, over the water, under NVGs, no land masses around. The ship is not going to let her land there because you think about it in a concept where, like, you look in movies, somebody has like a bad scenario with their helicopter and they try to land it on the ship. Yeah. They're never going to let you do that. You're putting now everybody's lives on the ship in danger. Yeah. It's better for you to ditch that aircraft overboard and then they can snatch you out of the water. With helicopters, when you ditch into the water, it's all the weight's up top. There's no weight on bottom. So you immediately flip upside down and everything goes black. So you imagine you're strapped in a seat inside of a cage and you go into the water, flip upside down under nighttime. It is super sketch. And we train for it in the dunkers, but to do it in actuality is a whole different scenario. And so she's tracking back at nighttime, no tail rotor, and she decides they're going to ditch the aircraft. So they get as close as they can to the ship, and they ditch this thing in pitch black darkness into the water. And so they auto rotate down into the water, flips upside down, and they make it out just like it's a regular training op. Like they just went through the motion. So
I'm so curious what, dude. I mean, that's sketch.
It's so sketch, man. It's so sketch.
Like nighttime, middle of the ocean, where it's like you just think about like this. It's probably like 5,000 feet deep or something crazy here. You know?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Do they talk about the rate at which those things sink? Like how, like by the time it turns over, like are you down 30 feet, 40 feet? Like what's?
Yep. They anticipate you being down around 35 to 45 feet if it takes you roughly 8 seconds. So 6 to 12 seconds is the average time frame it will take you to get out of the helicopter. So that's a long time for you to be riding a piece of steel just going straight down.
My gosh.
It's pretty intense. And if you don't do things before the helicopter enters the water, you may not even be able to egress the helicopter, period. So we have supplemental breathing devices that are attached to our vests, which will give you probably a minute or so of breath under the water, especially in that high strenuous situation. You're breathing your air really, really fast. So it allows you to unbuckle your seats, get a reference point, right? Your windows should be out by that point. You're worried about the entry conforming or distorting the airframe in such a way that your door won't open or your window won't go out now. So you want to get that stuff out before entry. You want to make sure that your helicopter is configured in a way that the blades aren't going to, come in and smash people inside. So our blades spin counterclockwise. A lot of guys will talk about rolling the helicopter purposely to the right. So that way the blades smack the water behind us, if that kind of makes sense. So if you can picture in front of you, your blades are rotating right to left in front of you, it will come back around. And when it comes behind the helicopter, it'll hit the water behind you. Where if you rolled left, the blades are hitting in front of us now. Gotcha. And so that thing just becomes, exploding piece of steel when it hits the water. And they got all this shrapnel going everywhere. Whether or not that works in practicality, I don't know if I would do that. I might just settle it straight in because it's going to roll either way. I would probably say in the heat of the moment, I'd be more concerned getting the window out than which way we're going to roll.
Do they? Dude, that's horrifying. In my mind, I'm like, I don't know. I almost would rather take my chance of like just being cruising at like 30 feet and just bail from the air rather than like risk going, sinking down with it. Why don't does anybody bail before it actually hits the water? Or is it a team effort to?
It is a team effort. You're going to be all strapped in on impact. So if you think about bailing out, right? If in a perfect world, say we could get slow enough. So helicopters, it is a constant battle between airspeed going forward and the power required to keep you in level flight. So we have what's called transitional lift, where you get moving forward enough. If you kind of think of the blades on top of our head as like a flat disc, if you kind of just remove the idea that they're spinning, just picture that as a giant airfoil. It's a giant flat circular air wing, I guess you could say. We're gliding through the air is essentially what's happening when I lower the collective all the way. There's no pitch on those blades. So if we're going to ditch, we're assuming there's something wrong with the engine or we lost our tail rotor. So I have to keep the collective all the way down, which the collective is going to control the pitch of those blades on the rotor head. Now there's a lot of like aerodynamic stuff that's happening there, but if I lower the collective all the way down, essentially we're just going to glide. But at one point, I'm going to get to a point where I can no longer maintain my altitude because I'm sacrificing that airspeed. So what will happen is we'll just come into an uncommanded straight drop into the water. Gotcha. So if I pull power in, I'm either aggravating the transmission, which is already something that we don't want to do, or we don't have a tail rotor and I'm going to start spinning. So if that happens and we were to bail out early, those blades, you don't know where we're going to hit. The helicopter could land on top of you. It could render you unconscious if you're just loose in the back. your best chance of survival is to strap yourself into the seat and assume what we like to call the crash position, where you're going to lean down, keep your body, all your arms real close to you. And after everything's done, they teach you to grab a reference point. So you're going to don your supplemental breathing device. You'll grab a reference point.
Mm-hmm.
For pilots, they remind us to unconnect our communications cord because that can prevent you from egressing the helicopter. Mm-hmm. So now you're going to hold on to a reference point, and then after all of the violent motion has ceased, you're going to unstrap your harness, and you're going to egress the helicopter. Now you have what's called an LPU around our necks up in this area, and you pull little strings around your necks, and that's going to inflate a flotation device. If you panic and you do that before you get out of the helicopter, you're going to be stuck in it, which is also a bad time.
Yeah.
And then this is really funny that you say this. We were talking about sink rate. In the Dunker trainers, they talk about, we were breathing on this supplemental breather device. If you hold your breath, you could explode your lungs, right? Yeah, so the divers that are going to watch this know this very well. Yep. Holding a breath while you rise is very dangerous. So they talk about constantly breathing out as you're rising to the surface because you don't know how deep you are, especially at nighttime. You don't know what's going to happen. What if I sunk 100 feet? You have no clue how deep you've just gone. And for the divers in here, 130 feet is probably going to come really quick. So your eardrums might be ruptured. You could have kind of compression sickness. Tons of different things happen to guys when they go into the water like that. Especially jet guys. Jet guys have it very odd, ejecting at extremely high altitudes and then coming down in extreme pressures, them free fall. It depends on how their chutes go. I've heard guys in the F-18 world, their seats react differently to different altitudes. So they can put it at, hey, your chute's going to open at this altitude no matter what. Or, hey, it's going to be manually commanded. I'm going to say it's going to open at this. Or there's different ways that they approach that dilemma as well. You're also hoping you're going to be conscious in your chute in that case as well, too. So,
yeah. Man.
Yeah.
Man. It's just one of those things where it's like, you have to prepare for those types of situations. And like you said earlier, like you've gone through this in your head so many times that you're as prepared as you can be. So it's almost like a healthy level of like paranoia,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you can't help but think about it while you're flying. You're like, okay, it's like a conscious effort of the whole entire crew to always assume the worst. Because if you always assume the worst, you always be ready for it. It's not like one of those things where, you fly commercially. We're not going to talk about the engines going out, fellas. We're not going to talk. Everyone's going to stay super calm. We're not going to show any snakes on planes movies. We're just going to look forward, eat the snacks. In this case, you get on our aircraft. First thing we're going to say, all right, if we're going down, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's always talking about the worst case scenario. Be prepared for a dual engine failure or whatever.
Does it take the fun out of it sometimes?
No, we've done it so much, it happens, I think every time we fly, there's not a time we don't talk about our emergencies. So it's so much of a normal process for us that I rattle it off like it's nothing every time we brief these things. So it's kind of like trying to compare it.
It reminds me of at the beginning of any like Marine Corps PPE or CPE. What's the acronym for it? Like when you're about to get a class, it's like, oh, if the place burns down, we're going out this exit. You go here,
exactly,
parking lot.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. Right before a class, you're like, if there's a shooter, if there's a fire, we're gonna go out this door. Yeah, exactly. And you're just like, yep, sure. Like everybody knows what he's gonna say. It's exactly like that. Exactly.
Yeah. Wild. I remember I worked with a guy that was a 46 crew chief for a while, and he said like the craziest thing was flying over the ocean with MVGs on, where it's just like it's just two shades of green and nothing's changing, and it's just like hypnotic, Yeah,
it is. You have to trust your gauges, man. Trusting your gauges is huge. Not getting disorientated or vertigo. You said you worked in the aviation world as well, so you must know some concepts behind the pilots as well. Yeah. Have you heard the term vertigo before?
Yeah. You don't know what's up.
Yeah, man, that
Scary.
is the most dangerous scenario you can get in.
Mm,
There's like three different levels of vertigo, right? So there's the recognized, so you know you're disorientated, unrecognized, which is the most dangerous, and then just debilitating. So like you're completely useless. You can't get back on the gauge. You just can't feel normal again. I've
wow.
never known it get to that stage. I have known guys that have gotten the unrecognized, which is more dangerous than anything
Mm,
because you think you're flying normal, but in reality, you're starting to drift backwards, or you're drifting to the left, and you think you're going forward, and you just
wow.
don't realize it, and that's very, very uncomfortable.
I imagine if, like if you're going through the pipeline and you say like that happened to you, like you probably get dropped, right? Or like,
No, no, that's a good question, actually. Yeah. So I think everybody's had some form of vertigo a little bit. So the connection between, and I would say, if there was a actual problem between your brain and your inner ear,
mm,
what they call the vestibular ear, which is deep inside, there's fluid that sits in there and helps you feel what is level, what is not, what's happening to your body. If there was something actually wrong with you, they probably would have caught it early on at like NAMI, or they would have caught it especially in the VTs when you're doing out of control flight procedures and you're just like free falling out of the sky. You probably
gotcha.
would have been detected then. But say you did get to HTs and that point is happening and you are getting vertigo, if it happens on every flight, they would probably send you to medical and be like, hey, something is going on. But if it happens to you once or twice every once in a while, maybe once a year or something like that, then
Mm,
not a big ordeal. It's better for you to get it in training than an actual operational mission
no doubt.
and
Yeah.
be like, hey, this is what happened to me. Holy cow, I was doing this. I should have looked at this gauge. And then, that's why we have two pilots in the 60. There's a lot going on with radios, with your instruments. There's stuff going on in the back. And so it's very easy to get distracted, or it's very easy to get scope locked on one instrument and be
Mm,
like, I'm going to look at my altitude because that's what matters. But in reality, if you get really slow and we're really heavy,
yeah.
we're not going to be able to maintain level flight anyway.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different concepts that bounce off people like that.
Mm, gotcha. So it's not quite, because I know people that have gotten dropped because they got air sickness too frequently. So it's
Now, air
not looked at
sickness,
quite the
yeah,
same.
yeah. So air sickness is another ballpark. I got air sick the first time I ever flew the T6.
Mm.
That's a good story right there, man. So we get what's
Let's
called
hear it.
on wings. Yeah. So we get on wings, which is it's an instructor that's your first time flying a military aircraft. He is going to be your instructor for your first 10 flights. And then you do an off wing flight, which is you're flying with random instructors nonstop. So I get my on wing. His name was Captain Johnson, and he was an Air Force instructor.
Mm,
So it's kind of funny. Joined the Navy, but I got taught in the beginning by an Air Force instructor. Kind of funny.
mm,
But I was part of the BT3, which is the Red Knights down there in Pensacola, Milton. And so we go out on this flight and we do what's called GXs, which is it's a G warming up exercise. It's where you bank the plane and you pull back on the stick and you get G's on the body. And you have a G suit, you have a cummerbund that kind of squeezes you around your waist, and you force the blood to go back to your brain so you can stay conscious. And you do a hic maneuver, which allows you to breathe and also stay a little bit more relaxed while you're in the pull. And we're doing these G exercises, and we usually only do like maybe one or two. After the seventh one, I was like, something's up, man. He's really riding me right now. And then we did one more, and I told him, I was like, hey, sir, like I'm tapped out. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm gonna be sick. And he's like, okay, I got controls. You pull your bag out. I pull a Ziploc bag out of my my ankle pocket, and I filled this gallon bag, man. It was so full, man. I was so sick. He had to fly us all the way back. We got to the airfield. You do what's called a brake, which you turn the aircraft over real hard and you pull at the airfield. It slows all your momentum and it sets you up for a landing. And so we're in the brake, and I'm sideways in this plane, still puking while we're landing the plane. So we land, we're taxiing back to the line, and I remember him saying to me, I'm taxiing Alpha. We're going to go over here, man. I know you're not listening to me, but we're going to get you back to the line. So we pull into the line. We shut down, do all the checklists. I have this huge bag of puke that's like on the consoles down here, and I'm trying to just keep it out of the way. I Ziploc it up. I go to get out of the aircraft, and it catches the handle on the aircraft, and it spilled all over the wing, all over my boots, all over his boots, all over the console panel. Just there's puke everywhere, man. And I remember getting off that thing, and the maintenance guy was standing there just fucking pissed, man.
Because he's got to clean it up.
Yeah, I was like, I came out there and helped clean some of it up with him. I was like, so sorry, man. I'm so sorry.
Oh, man.
He didn't say anything to me. He was just like, thanks. You know, just cleaned up the wing, and oh yeah, man, that was brutal.
At least it didn't like spill everywhere in the cockpit, you know, like that would.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I actually at my when I graduated VTs, I actually took some chicken noodle soup, poured it into a Ziploc bag, locked it up, and I gave it to him as a gift at the very end and told him it was the real bag of puke, and everybody was dying laughing.
Too funny. I can't imagine that's the first time he's had to clean up some vomit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. A lot of guys get sick, but air sickness is definitely one of the things that will eliminate you. They put you in a spinning chair, and they spin you for like an hour until you get sick over and over and over and over and over. And eventually your body stops getting sick. Then you go back to the airplane and see if you're fine. If you're fine, you're good to go. If you keep getting sick, then they cut you, unfortunately.
Wow. Yeah, I heard about that. There's a like you said, a spinning chair that they'll just make you absolutely like, it's like torture, but it's trying to help you not get sick anymore.
Yeah. They kind of take the I don't know what kind of approach you can say. Just getting sick over and over I'm pretty sure there's a word for it, where you do something continuously until it doesn't bother you. Not adapt. What's the word I'm looking for?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe inoculate. Yeah.
I don't know if it's the right word, but I think it works.
Yeah. It was super brutal. I knew a couple guys that went through it, and they would come home in the afternoon and they'd still just be sick through the whole day. They'd finally feel better in the morning at like 09. And they go back in the next day and get sick all over again, just the whole day, so they could get over their air sickness. It was very brutal.
It's got to be so discouraging, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, Phillip, dude, sweet story. I'm pumped for you, man. That's a heck of a turnaround, and it's always exciting to see guys go from like enlisted grunt side to do like, you know, the officer stuff and flying, because it's a different world. From what I understand.
Oh, yeah. It's been a great time. I'm loving it. Out here in Guam is a great time. Being on the island and everything is a different, unique experience for sure.
Awesome.
So I'm loving the time out here.
Good for you, man. I'm looking forward to seeing where the rest of the career takes you.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I've got a couple closing questions that I go through, and I don't know if you saw them beforehand, but if not, we'll just kind of make it up as we go. Since you're already in, let's go with this route. First question: would you recommend the military to others?
I would. Yeah, I think it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Definitely makes you grow up. That's for sure.
Yeah. Kind of
all the way back to the beginning, you know, where I didn't think I was ready. Military will definitely mature you. That's for sure. Definitely makes you appreciate the little things. And I would say it probably orientates you too. Probably makes you get more scope locked on what you want as a person.
I'd agree with that. What do you think separates those that are successful in the military versus those who are not?
I think we are always doing what we internally want to do. So I think it emphasizes on who you are as a person. So if you were a very driven person before the military, you're going to be a driven person while you're in the military. I think it comes down to how much work you want to put in. So if you were a very driven person that was hardworking before you came in, if you have a tough time in the beginning, don't get discouraged with yourself. Just keep working, and eventually you're going to rise to the top. And people who came in that were initially lazy, if you don't adapt and, you know, be that hardworking guy, then you're always going to be at the bottom. So the level of, you know, how much you put into it is going to be how much you get out of it as well. And we all know for sure the military is not giving you anything for free. That is for sure.
Definitely true. Definitely true. What is the most influential book that you've read?
Oh man, that is a good one. Oh man, I don't know. Have you ever read? So that brigadier general actually made me give a PowerPoint presentation to a bunch of Marines before we went to Afghan. And he made me read this book called On Killing by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I can't remember if I read On Killing or On Combat, but I know I read one of them, and it was fantastic.
It was, yeah. He breaks things down in such a way, such easy, like bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
And really dug into psychological stuff and who we are as human beings. And that was huge. I think that book really touched me really deep. And I think, doing what we do in nature of our business, the defenders of our country, it kind of lines you a little bit more with like what you're doing as a person. Makes you appreciate what some guys before you have done as well.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. When you say that, I'm confident it was On Combat, not On Killing. But yeah. I'll have to give On Killing a read too.
Yeah. Yeah. That one was really good. He breaks down some different psychological things that happens with the Marines and Army. He goes into the SEALs and how the military changes you and what is happening with your mind. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Which, I mean, is worth understanding what happens, like
for sure.
Understanding your mind is pretty critical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lastly, do you have a favorite military discount that you take advantage of often?
Oh man. A favorite military discount. I would say
one of my Instagram followers recommended this question be added. So I think everybody's looking for a deal.
Looking for a deal. Military discount. I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite discount that I do. Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. Let's see. I had a discount one time at a couple gun shops, and I think that held me really well. That was up in Skowhegan, Maine, actually.
Gotcha.
And it used to give me a 15% discount on ammo, and I didn't even really care about the gun discount. It's just I shot so much ammo at that time, and just going target practicing and having a good time. It saved me a ton of money going to him and just buying ammo off of him. That was huge. Nice.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple good deals on Glocks that come with like the military law enforcement deals. Like I don't know how often it happens, but I got 2 Glocks for like I think it was almost 50% off. And I'm like, are you serious?
No way.
Like I almost feel bad taking this kind of discount, but I mean it was like a couple $100 off. I'm like, if you're offering, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, seriously. I would have been like, oh, and since I'm here, I'm going to get this one and this one.
I'm pretty sure they had a limit, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So, they thought ahead on that part.
Yeah, I'll be maxing that limit out. I'll be coming back every day. Just getting one.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh man, awesome, Phillip. Well, dude, I'm stoked for you. I really appreciate you waking up early on your leave to do this interview. And
absolutely
make it happen with the crazy time difference that we're dealing with right here.
Absolutely, man. It was great talking to you, man.
Likewise, dude. We'll stay in touch, and I look forward to seeing what happens next for you.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks so much. Oh, also, if anybody wants to check you out or like contact you, maybe ask questions about flying, where can people find you? I don't know if you have, a platform that you like to be public on. Or
no, anyone can hit me up on Facebook. If they search Phillip Exner, I'll pop right up on there. They can always shoot any messages or any questions. I'm actually the enlisted to officer coordinator over here for all our enlisted sailors. So I actually help all the enlisted go to officer using Stay 21 programs and the 9/11 GI Bill and stuff.
Nice. This might be a can of worms. Stay 21 program?
Yes, that is Seaman to Admiral program. They basically mixed all the programs for the Navy into one program. They used to have each individual program to go to like different jobs. So now they just put it all into one, so we can be more linear and more flexible across the board.
So it's kind of like combining MECEP, ECP, like all the different routes from enlisted to officer. Gotcha.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Awesome. Good to know. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yep. Hell yeah, brother.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed that episode, and really were inspired by Phillip's story. Like I said, I thought it was inspiring. He really went from, Marine Corps infantry enlisted to naval aviator as a pilot, which, I don't know, if you're not in the military, maybe it doesn't seem like too much, but if you know the military, you know the Marine Corps, if you've been in the Marine Corps, it's just kind of like going from like peasants to king almost, in a sense. And so I think it's a really cool story, and it's should be inspiring for anybody that's thinking about like pursuing that route. And so never write yourself off too soon. He went through great lengths to get where he is now, and he's proof that it can be done. So if you guys want to connect with Phillip, his links are in the description. And if you want to read the same book that he read, that is the most influential book he's read in his life on killing, that link is below. Thanks again for tuning in, you guys, and I will see you guys next week. Peace.